Hello there, and welcome to another deck profile for London Players Guild by me, Blaney P, from Team Rewind. Today I'm going to be going over the black blocker build, or as I like to call it, the shield wall. There's only one of two builds you can build with black at the moment, and I think this is the better version over the Hagurumon one. So let's start going over the cards. So up first, I only run 4 eggs. And that's because I think Keramon is the main one that you want out of it, which is your turn. If this Digimon has reboot, this Digimon gets plus 1000 DP. I don't run the other one because it doesn't really bring much benefit to the deck. I feel like you want to be flipping the Keramons, so that's why I just run it as a 4 of at the moment. Maybe further down the line there'll be some better black cards, but that's it for now. Up next is the rookies, and the first rookie I run is Gotsumon. He's a cost 3. And he has blocker, so he's just a cheap rookie blocker, but you can get his DP up higher, and I'll go over that later on using the tamer cards, but pretty much he's just a blocker. That's all you need from him. Up next is Agumon. Can be a really important rookie. He has the inheritable reboot, which comes in really handy for when you put a blocker over him like Andromeda or Machinedramon. It allows you to swing with them and then stand back up. That's why I call it a shield wall. So he's your most important rookie overall. I'd say he's the one that you want to be putting on chains where you know it's going to finish up with a Machinedramon or even your ultimate of Andromon, so that you're getting them swings in and then you're getting to the point where you can defend again next turn. Up next is Hagurumon. Later down the line, when more sets come out, I'd replace this, but at the moment he's just a cheap cost 2 to get on the field with a 0 evolution cost like every rookie is. But you can throw him out for cost 2 and start building on him. If you've got too many rookies in your hand and you want to start building a field, or you've got rookies and champions and you just need to get up the chain to draw, because that's one of the things black suffers from, is a lack of sustainable draw. Up next is Keramon with the inheritable. This Digimon gets 1000 DP on your opponent's turn. Again, like Agumon, is another one that's decent to evolve up a chain on. I'd aim Keramon onto a Wargreymon, because Wargreymon's final is that he has blocker and reboot. So you don't need to worry about having the inheritable there. So it just means that you've got a 12k blocker on your opponent's turn. And if you stack it with the ties, he's even bigger. So he becomes a very big wall that your opponent will struggle to get over and will more than likely have to spend a Terra Force or an Ice Wolf Claw on to get rid of. So very worthwhile putting the Keramon under a chain that's going to hit Wargreymon. Up next, we're going to the champions. You've got Gardramon, which is a cost 5, 7000 DP blocker. Now, that is an amazing stat for a champion at 7k. Sadly, you can't attack with him, but early on in the game, if you've bricked a little bit and you've got Gardramon in the hand, I highly recommend just hard casting him out for the 5, because it's going to take your opponent a little while to get over that 7000 DP. Especially if you've got your tamer on board, he's going to be 8000 DP. Or even if you've evolved him over a Keramon, he's 8000, then put a tie on top and he's a 9000 champion blocker. You know, this Gardramon buys turns. That's all I can say about Gardramon, is he will buy you turns. Up next is Greymon. Again, this is another important card that's worth getting on your Wargreymon line. So you'd go Keramon, Greymon, because your turn, if this Digimon has reboot, you get jamming. So that suddenly means that you've got reboot, blocker, and jamming, and 1000 DP in your opponent's turn. So you know that your Wargreymon's not going to die swinging in. And then he's safe to block next turn for you. Up next, Chrysalismon. Just another blocker. He's only a 5000 DP blocker, but he's there to block. And again, in this deck, nothing is the attack it says it's going to be on your opponent's turn, because you're going to be increasing it. Up next, Metal Greymon, your turn. If this Digimon has reboot, security attack +1. Now he's good to start getting out your early swings on your opponent as well because he's got reboot. So Metal Greymon goes on top of Greymon, and then you know that you're safe swinging with your 7000 DP because they're not going to get rid of it. And then you know he's going to restand if you haven't got your Wargreymon to go into that turn. Or if it's going to end your turn, you know that you're pretty safe swinging in with Metal Greymon and then evolving in Wargreymon to end your turn then instead. And you've still took a security off your opponent. Next, Andromeda, 7k blocker, ultimate. Same as your champion, but he's just another blocker you can have out. If you want to start progressing up a chain and you've only got your Hagurumon out, you know that you can go into your Andromeda and still keep a powerful blocker on field that you can try and prevent an attack with. Obviously, if it's a chain, you don't really want to block and let it die if that's all you've got in the field, but it can still block a rookie attack or something like that that your opponent's got out. You know, keeping your security up as best you can. And up next, the most important and the attacker of the deck, Wargreymon. As I said earlier and touched on, he's got blocker, he's got reboot, he's 11k. And if you get the inheritable line right, you know, he's going to be 12k on your opponent's turn. If you've got the Keramon on, he's 12k on your turn. If you've got the Greymon on, his DP don't matter too much if you're going into the security because he's got jamming. He'll get security attack +1 because of your Metal Greymon. So you can hit for 2 security, restand, and then be able to block next turn. And you're at least 12k on your turn and on your opponent's turn. Up next, Hyundramon. I run this as a 3 of. As I've been testing, I feel like I'd probably reduce that to a 2 of. And then I'll explain what I'd change to a 3 of as I get to that card. But Hyundramon's mainly in here because there's not a lot of megas for black at the moment. And he can be a strong beat stick at 12k. And then with the Keramon, he can be 13k. But, you know, he's there just to get rid of big things that your opponent puts down and cause them trouble that way. Or if you've got a bad evolution line and you don't want to waste a Wargreymon evolving onto it, there's the Hyundramon there as an option just to have as a beat stick. Up next, we have Machinedramon, who is a blocker and has, when played, 2 of your opponent's Digimon de-digivolve 2. So he's cost 12, but if your opponent's managing to hit the field with Megas and you're worried about their threats, I'd highly recommend playing it out and just taking away their evolution chains. And then he's a blocker, so you've de-digivolved 2 of your opponent's Digimon, and then you've got a block on field. So if you've still got some other blockers on field, like a Agumon as well, then you've built your wall and you've took their strength down, and they're going to have to spend their turn rebuilding to get over these threats. And if you've got your tie out, you know, he's going to be 12k. If you've got 2 ties out, he's going to be 13k. And then they've got to digivolve back up and deal with that issue, which can be very difficult to do after you've done that and you've got a big threat on board. He's also, I'd say he's also worth evolving into at times as well, because he's got blocker, and if you evolve him into a chain with Toy Agumon, he gets the reboot, and you've basically got yourself another Wargreymon out on the field. So there is that option as well. It's just if you've got a Wargreymon in hand, I'd go for the Wargreymon every time because he costs 3 to evolve, and this costs 4. But it's not out of the realm to go into the Machinedramon if you've not hit a Wargreymon. Up next is the level 7 Millenniumon, which is Evo cost 6 and cost 15. It's highly unlikely you're ever going to pay cost 15 to get him out, especially because his abilities are when Digivolve. This is just another card that can clear something off the field for you, and it's difficult for your opponent to get rid of. When Digivolved, return one of your opponent's Digimon to the bottom of the deck. That Digimon Digivolution sources are discarded. And when Millenniumon is destroyed, if this Digimon had any Digivolution sources, you may play this card from the trash without paying its cost. So once you've evolved into him, your opponent's got to get rid of him twice. This is a Digimon that I would evolve on Hyundramon, because, as I said before, Hyundramon's just a beat stick. He's not going to provide you with any of the blocking or the... Well, he could give you reboot if you've got a toy Agumon on the chain, but you wouldn't want to evolve Hyundramon on that chain. It'd feel like a major waste of a decent chain line. So, overall, I'd probably evolve him onto a Hyundramon, or maybe even a Machinedramon if you haven't got a toy Agumon in that line, or just if your opponent's going to kill you and you need to get rid of a threat, then that's when you'd go for the Wargreymon, because obviously in card games you can never get the ideal plays you want. You've got to run with what you've got. But as I said, you're going to get a few attacks out of him, or your opponent's going to spend a lot of energy getting rid of him. Well, memory. Tie. The tamer I've been going on about all the way through the profile is start your turn, memory 2 or less, it becomes free, standard for every colour, and then opponent's turn, all of your black Digimon get 1000 DP. So this is where you build your shield. Tai builds your shield. He creates big blockers and just makes it hard for your opponent to get over him, because they can't rookie rush you because they know you've got the blockers, so every time they swing with a rookie, they know you're going to kill it with a blocker. And just keep taking their resources. They're going to have to waste cards on board to get them blocks in rest mode to then get the attacks through on security, which is what you're aiming to do in this deck. You're aiming to clear your opponent's field without even attacking them. You're letting them attack you and you're clearing the field because they need to get into your security, or they're going to be sat waiting until they've got enough to get over you, which gives you time to build. Up next, Atomic Ray. Main, one of your Digimon with blocker becomes active. Now this card can be insane for you. You can finish your opponent off in a turn, and this is the card that I'd bring to 3 and take Hyundramon to 2 if I was to change anything in this deck. Because once you've got your Wargreymon out, he has blocker. If he's got a Metal Greymon under him, he has security attack +1. So suddenly, you can swing with your Wargreymon, take 2 security, and then you can play Atomic Ray, restand, and then swing again and take 2 security, which is enough to end the game if you've already got a chip shot in earlier with your Metal Greymon. And it takes a lot of opponents by surprise. There's nothing they can really do about it because you'll probably have jamming as well if you've done your chain right. And you just walk away with the game off a Wargreymon and a Atomic Ray. And then up next is Spider Shooter, which is main. One of your opponent's Digimon, Digivolve 1. This is just to pot shot any megas that are out there that are causing you a problem, that you're worried you're going to have to lose one of your megas over by blocking against them. And I only run this as a 2 of as well. This is something that I'd probably look at changing in the future as well, if any better option cards come out for black. Obviously, black's limited in its card pool at the moment, so I think this is one of the best builds you can get out of it. I'd highly recommend playing it as good fun. It's not one of the most competitive decks out there because there's not much consistency cards in it, but the sheer amount of blockers in it and the DP of the blockers really buys you time to get out of the bricks that you're in. There's been a few games I've played with this where I've had a bricky start and I've dropped a Gardramon down and it's bought me 2 turns and I've been able to get my deck going. And I think that's how this deck sort of aims to run at the moment. So, yep, that is the profile, guys. If you've liked it, drop a like. Please follow the channel. And if there's anything you'd like to see profiled, drop it in the comments below and let me know. Thanks, guys.